Okay, welcome back from where we had stopped last time under this topic, ecology. Last time we discussed the concepts, the terms used in ecology. We discussed the factors in an ecosystem. And the factors in ecosystem, we said there are two, biotic and abiotic factors. So to remind ourselves, last time we defined ecology as the study of interrelationships of living organisms to each other and to their surrounding. The surrounding, we are talking about the environment, the physical environment. Then we went ahead, we discussed various terms. We can remind ourselves, the first term was, can just write them randomly, habitat. This habitat, ecological niche, autecology, synecology, population, community, ecosystem, biomass, ecosphere, also called biosphere, carrying capacity, So we see these are the concepts. After defining ecology, we went to the concepts, the terms which used in ecology. So we can remind ourselves that habitat is a specific locality with a particular set of conditions where a living organism lives. Ecological niche, we said, is the position occupied by a living organism in a habitat and the role it plays. Autecology, we said, is the study of a single species in the ecosystem. Synecology, the study of many species in the ecosystem. Population, a total number of species, a total number of living organisms belonging to a particular species over a given period of time. The total number of a given species living in a particular area over a given period of time. Community, several species interacting to each other in an ecosystem. When we say that an ecosystem now is a natural unit made up of biotic and abiotic factors whose interactions leads to a self-sustaining system. Then biomass, we're talking about the total dry weight of a living organism at a particular trophic level or feeding level. Ecosphere or biosphere, we said, is the part of the earth and atmosphere inhabited by living organisms. Then carrying capacity is the maximum number of living organisms a particular area can comfortably support without depletion of the available resources. Then now we can go ahead, we went ahead to talk about factors in an ecosystem. We said the ecosystem, a natural unit composed of biotic and abiotic factors. We discovered the biotic factors. We said these are living biotic factors. These are living factors in an ecosystem. And we said those biotic are competition, predation, symbiosis, parasitism, saprophytism. So the biotic factors, we discussed them, competition. We said competition occurs when the resources are scarce. Scarce means the resources are not enough. So living organisms are competing for these resources. We said the resources organisms compete for is space, mates, nutrients, and light. In case of plants, the competition occurs when the resources are scarce or they're limited, they're not enough. So organisms compete for resources like space, mates, nutrients, and light. Then you say there are two types of competition: intraspecific competition and interspecific competition. Intraspecific competition is the competition between same species, similar species competing for scarce resource. Interspecific, different species competing for the same scarce resources. Then it's talked about predation. It's said a mode of nutrition where living organisms, where one organism called the predator hunts and kills another called the prey for food by feeding it either wholly or partially. Then we discuss the adaptations of the predators and the adaptations of the prey. Talk about the prey and the predator. Then we discussed about symbiosis. We said it's a mutual relationship. A mutual relationship where both two or more living organisms benefit from each other mutually or equally. We give an example of a symbiotic bacteria which lives in the root nodules of leguminous plants. Then parasitism, a mode of nutrition where one organism called the parasite feeds on another, lives in or another organism called the host. So the parasite is an organism that lives inside or outside in or another one called the host. Those which lives outside are called ectoparasites. Example, we said you can talk about a tick living on the surface of a cow or a camel. Then endoparasites, those which live inside the host. For example, talk about the liver flukes, the tapeworms. So we said the parasites transmit diseases which eventually may end up killing the host. Then saprophytism, we said it's a mode of nutrition where one organism called the saprophyte feeds on dead, decaying organic materials. That's what we discussed that. Then now today we are talking about abiotic factors. We are through with biotic now, abiotic factors. The abiotic factors are physical environmental factors that are not directly interrelated to other living organisms in an ecosystem. Simply, these are non-living environmental factors. They're also called physical factors. Physical factors. So these are, these are non-living, the non-living environmental factors. Environmental factors in the ecosystem. In the ecosystem. In the ecosystem. They are also called physical factors. They are also called physical factors. They are also called physical factors, non-living environmental factors that affect the distribution of living organisms in an ecosystem. We say the ecosystem, a natural unit composed of biotic and abiotic factors whose interactions lead to a self-sustaining system. Now we want to see how do these abiotic relate with biotic. And at the end of the day, there is a self-sustaining system in that ecosystem. So these factors are the abiotic factors are, can list them down before explaining temperature. They are temperature, light, talk about humidity, atmospheric pressure, talk about wind, talk about pH, can talk about salinity. So we can discuss one by one. Temperature. How does, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How do these non-living environmental factors affect the distribution of living organisms in an ecosystem? Let's start with temperature. Temperature affects biochemical processes. The temperature, we start with temperature by 1. Temperature normally affects biochemical processes in living organisms. It affects biochemical processes in living organisms, and most of which are enzyme controlled. Most of which are enzyme controlled. These biochemical processes in living organisms, most of which are enzyme controlled. And we know very well that enzymes are protein in nature, and anything protein in nature is affected by extreme changes in temperature. So when you're explaining about how does temperature affect the distribution of living organisms in an ecosystem, number one, you must start by introducing yourself. What is the importance of temperature in the living organism? It affects biochemical processes in living organisms, and most of these biochemical processes are enzyme controlled. For example, we talk about biochemical process like respiration, the breakdown of food substance to release energy. It is biochemical processes. Most enzyme controlled reactions work best at a temperature we call optimum. At a temperature we call optimum. Optimum temperature means not extremely too high, not extremely too low. In between optimum, at optimum temperature. Temperature, in terms of when there is high temperature, can talk about low temperature inactivates enzymes. Low temperature inactivates enzymes. I'm saying temperature affects biochemical processes in living organisms, and most of these biochemical processes are enzyme controlled. They are controlled by enzymes. So I'm saying enzyme controlled reactions work best at optimum temperature. Work best at optimum temperature. They work best at optimum temperature. Optimum, not too low, not too high. What about if it is low? Too low temperatures inactivates enzymes. Inactivates enzymes means it slows down the rate of biochemical reaction. Too high temperatures denatures enzymes. Too low temperatures denatures enzymes. Denatures means destroys. It destroys the enzymes which are controlling the reactions. In plants, at high temperature, the rate of photosynthesis is high. But remember, not extremely too high. In plants, at high temperatures, the rate of transpiration is normally high, and the rate of photosynthesis is also normally high. I'm saying in plants, high temperatures leads to increase in the rate of photosynthesis, and it leads also to increase in the rate of transpiration. Photosynthesis and transpiration. So if the temperature is high, the rate of transpiration will be high, and if the rate of transpiration is high, to a certain point, it will lead to permanent wilting, leading to the death of the plant. Also high temperatures in animals. The high temperatures in animals also increases sweating. Increases sweating. It increases sweating in animals. High temperatures in animals, high temperatures increases sweating from the body surface, which is loss of water from the body surface, which may lead to desiccation, drying. It also leads to hibernation. It also leads to hibernation. That is high temperatures. It also leads to hibernation. And when the temperatures are high, it also leads to what we call aestivation. Low temperatures in animals, I'm saying the low temperatures in animals, high temperatures increase sweating in animals, hibernate at low temperatures and aestivate at high temperatures. So in animals, they will aestivate at high temperature and they hibernate at low temperatures. Hibernation, when now they are going to a deep sleep, and aestivation, and they are running away, they are burrowing in soils to prevent them from excess water loss from the body. Temperature is used by an instrument called a thermometer. It is measured by an instrument called a thermometer. So when you are discussing these abiotic factors, you must define it and how it influences the distribution of living organisms, how living organisms behave, how it brings about change in behavior, and finally you must mention the instrument which is used to measure that abiotic. So I've said temperature is measured by an instrument called thermometer. Then I'm saying it affects biochemical processes in living organisms which are controlled by enzymes. Very high temperatures denatures enzymes. Very low temperatures inactivates enzymes, slowing down the biochemical processes. Then what is the effect of high temperatures in plants? High temperature leads to high rate of transpiration, which leads to excessive loss of water from the plant surface. It also leads to the rate of photosynthesis will increase, which is an advantage, but up to optimum. Remember that, not too much. Then in animals, high temperatures leads to aestivation. Aestivation, they start burrowing, hiding away in soils, in rocks. Hibernation, they also start going to a deep sleep when the temperatures are very low. Also, the high temperature in animals increases the rate of sweating from the body surface. Temperature is measured by thermometer. That's all about temperature. Next, let's talk about light as another abiotic factor. Remember, when you are writing these abiotic factors, each abiotic factor should be on its own paragraph. So like these are supposed to be 7 paragraphs, in case it's an easy question, which will give you a total of 20 marks. Let's talk about light. Light is required by all green plants and photosynthetic bacteria. By green plants and photosynthetic. Green plants and photosynthetic bacteria. And photosynthetic bacteria. Green plants, not non-green, green plants and photosynthetic bacteria require light for the process of photosynthesis. Remember, plants are the main source of food in an ecosystem. So how does light affect the distribution of living organisms? We are saying light is required by green plants and the photosynthetic bacteria in the manufacture of their own food in the process of photosynthesis. The sun is the main source of light energy. The sun is the main source of light energy. So when I'm saying the sun is the main source of light energy. If this is sun, then this sun and this is green plants, they are going to trap this light energy and use it in the process of photosynthesis. Then when they make their own food substances, then plants are called primary consumers. Not consumers, I'm saying they are called the primary producers. Plants are the primary producers. All energy flows from plants. Then animals can get that energy directly by feeding on plants or indirectly by feeding on other animals. So the sun is the main source of energy in an ecosystem. Herbivores depend on plants for food. Herbivores depend plants for food. So that's what I'm saying. Plants are the main producer or the main source. So how does light affect the distribution of living organisms? Light intensity and light duration affects light intensity and light quality, not duration. Saying the light, yeah, we have three types of aspects of light, three aspects of light: light duration, light intensity, and light quality. We also even have light wavelength. Light wavelength. They affect the distribution of living organisms. We can explain briefly what these aspects of light. Light duration means how long does the sun is shining so that this light energy can be trapped by plants. The light duration is normally 12 hours, from 7 in the morning to 6 p.m. I don't think beyond 6 there is sun shining. Then intensity means how much is that light falling on the leaf surface. The quality means the goodness of that light. Is it UV light, which is very destructive? The wavelengths, we talk about two types, blue and red wavelengths. And the plants normally require blue and red wavelengths of light. So the light duration, light intensity, light quality, and the light wavelength affects the distribution of living organisms in the following ways. It affects the rate of photosynthesis, flowering, and germination. It affects the rate of photosynthesis, flowering, and germination. That is in plants. Photosynthesis. Light is required in the process of photosynthesis in the light stage, in the process called photolysis, to split the water molecule into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. The hydrogen atoms which are taken to the dark stage to combine with carbon dioxide to form the simple sugars. So you can see if there is enough optimum light intensity, optimum light duration, optimum light quality, then the rate of photosynthesis is going to proceed at a good rate. Some plants can only produce flowers in the presence of light. Germination. There are some seeds which require light for the germination as one of the conditions for germination. That is in plants. In animals, it influences migration. In animals, this was the influence of light in plants. It influences photosynthesis, flowering, germination. In animals, light affects animals in terms of migration, vision, reproduction, and reproduction. The light, excessive light can make animals to migrate from one place to another, to run away from light. For example, some form of animals like the termites, they can just run away, a response which is normally called phototaxis light. Some animals can migrate towards all the source of light. Vision. Without light, most animals cannot be able to see. Depending on the two types of animals, the nocturnal, those ones which normally see properly during dark hours, during the night, and the diurnal animals. Reproduction. Some animals require light for them to be able to reproduce, and light is also necessary in synthesis of vitamin D. It is necessary in the synthesis of vitamin D, and you know lack of vitamin D in the body leads to what we call rickets. It affects the bones, so it's needed in the synthesis of vitamin D. Also, can add the synthesis of vitamins D. Synthesis of vitamins D, that is light. Then light is measured. Talk about the light. Light intensity is measured using photographic. Light intensity is measured. Light intensity is measured using a photographic light meter. And the light penetration in water, and the light penetration in water, and the light penetration in water is measured using a search disk. That is the second abiotic factor, light. You're saying light, the main source of light energy is the sun. Plants are the main producer in ecosystem, what we call primary producers. They trap light energy from the sun, and they use that light energy in the process of photosynthesis to make their own food. Animals obtain that food directly or indirectly. Directly by feeding on the plants, indirectly by eating other animals which are fed on plants. Then we said the two types of organisms that require light here in terms of photosynthesis, green plants and photosynthetic bacteria. Green plants and photosynthetic bacteria to make their own food. Then how does light affect the distribution of living organisms in an ecosystem? In plants, light intensity, light quality, they are necessary in the process of photosynthesis. Meaning, when there is optimum light or enough light, the rate of photosynthesis will proceed high and more food is made. Then in terms of flowering, some plants can only manufacture food substances in the presence of, some plants can only flower after presence or absence of light. Remember, the flower is the main reproductive organ in a plant. Some seeds can germinate, or some seedlings can germinate fully in the presence of light. Then animals, light affects migration. Some animals can migrate towards or away from light, what we call the phototaxis. Fission. Fission is necessary, light is necessary for fission, depending on the type of animal. The nocturnal, those ones which normally have high visual acuity during the night, and those during the day. Without light, cannot be able to see. Then reproduction, some animal species require light to carry out reproduction. And finally, light is necessary in the synthesis of vitamin D, which is necessary in the bone formation. Because you know lack of vitamin D, you lead to what we call rickets. And I said these are biotic factors. Each one of them, we must mention what instrument is used to measure it. The light intensity is measured using a photographic light meter, and the light penetration in water, because there are some organisms, you know, like aquatic animals. The light penetration in water is measured using a search disk. Using a search disk. The next we can go to humidity. Another abiotic factor. So those are the two paragraphs. This is a paragraph on its own, Then humidity. Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. Is the amount of water vapor. Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. How much water is available in the atmosphere? So this one we are going to talk in two ways, in animals and in plants. When humidity is low in plants, now how does it affect the distribution of living organisms, plants and animals? When humidity is low, the rate of transpiration is high. The rate of transpiration is high. When humidity is low, the rate of transpiration is high. The rate of water loss from the surface of the plant is very high, which may lead to permanent wilting. Although we know also transpiration has an advantage and disadvantages. When humidity is low, the rate of transpiration, when humidity is high, when humidity is high, when humidity is high, when humidity is high, the rate of transpiration is low, which is good. When humidity is low, the rate of transpiration is high. Plants will lose more water when there's no water in the atmosphere. When humidity is low, the rate of transpiration is low, so plants will not wilt. They will not wilt or they will not dry off. And you know, when humidity is high, transpiration is low. You may ask yourself, how do plants remove excess water? Areas where humidity is high is in aquatic environment, the wet areas. In such situations, plants remove water in form of water droplets through a process called guttation. In areas where humidity is high, it means transpiration is very low. How do plants get rid of excess water? Plants excrete water in form of water droplets through special openings called hydatodes. In areas where humidity is high, plants remove excess water in form of water droplets, a process called guttation. This is now opposite of transpiration. Through special openings called hydatodes. When humidity is also, that is in plants. In plants, when humidity is low, transpiration is high, which leads to excess loss of water from plants, leading to drying of plants, dying of plants, permanent wilting. When humidity is high, transpiration is low, which is favorable to plants. What about in animals? When humidity is low, the rates of evaporation and the sweating from the animal's body surface increases. The rate of water loss from the animal's body surface increases in terms of water lossing. So in animals at low humidity there is increased sweating, and at high humidity there is less sweating. When humidity is high in animals now, that is in plants, in animals, when humidity is low, there is sweating. The rate of sweating increases and evaporation increases. Evaporation increases. That is in animals at low humidity there is increased sweating, and at high humidity there is less sweating. So in animals when humidity is low, there is sweating and there is evaporation, meaning there is no water in the atmosphere, so we are losing water to the atmosphere. And finally, the instrument which is used to measure humidity is what we call a paper hygrometer. Paper hygrometer is used. Also, you can use cobalt 2 chloride paper, cobalt 2 chloride paper or cobalt chloride paper is used to measure the rate of humidity, amount of water vapor in the atmosphere, whereby the paper hygrometer, it will become wet. The cobalt 2 chloride paper is normally blue. It's normally blue. It turns to pink. It shows the amount of water vapor available in the atmosphere. That's the chemical test for water. Then the other one, can talk about the last one, atmospheric pressure. The last one, atmospheric pressure. So this is also a paragraph of its own. The last one, it is atmospheric pressure. The atmospheric pressure atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure as a biotic factor. When we talk about atmospheric pressure, we are talking is the pressure exerted on the earth by atmospheric air. Pressure exerted on the earth, pressure exerted on the earth by the atmosphere air's weight, by the atmosphere's air weight, by the atmosphere's air weight. The atmospheric pressure normally varies with altitude. The atmospheric pressure varies with altitude. Altitude, the height above sea level, the height above sea level. Atmospheric pressure varies with altitude, the height above sea level. If I can give an example between this is a mountainous area. The atmospheric pressure here it is low. Down here, the atmospheric pressure is high. In high altitude areas, atmospheric pressure is very low. And when atmospheric pressure is very low, when atmospheric pressure, saying at high altitude, atmospheric pressure is low. And when atmospheric pressure is low, the rate of transpiration, when atmospheric pressure is low, the rate of transpiration, when atmospheric pressure is low, the rate of transpiration is high, sweating is high, the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide, these gases which are necessary, for example, carbon dioxide in photosynthesis, oxygen respiration, they are also, these gases, their concentration is very low. I'm saying atmospheric pressure is the pressure exerted on the earth by the atmospheric air's weight. And atmospheric pressure varies with altitude. What is altitude? The height above sea level. So at high altitude areas, for example, at the top of a mountain, high altitude areas, the atmospheric pressure is low. At high altitude areas, the atmospheric pressure is low. And when atmospheric pressure is low, the rate of transpiration will be high. Sweating from the body surface and evaporation and the general water loss from the body will also be high. The concentration of gases, respiratory gases, will be very low. And in areas where atmospheric pressure is very high, at high atmospheric pressure, the rate of transpiration is low, and the low atmospheric pressure, the rate of transpiration is high. The atmospheric pressure, I'm saying this, affects the amount of respiratory gases, the amount of these gases concentration. So in high altitude areas, the rate of carbon dioxide is very low, the rate of oxygen is very low. In fact, this reminds me in Form 2 work, why athletes train in high altitude areas. In high altitude areas, the rate of oxygen is very low. In high altitude areas, the rate of oxygen concentration is very low because of the atmospheric pressure, so that their body can make more hemoglobin to pack more oxygen when they're going to run on the lowland. But when the atmospheric pressure is high, there is high concentration of oxygen, there is high concentration of oxygen, there is high concentration of CO2, the rate of sweating is very low, and the rate of also transpiration is very low. And what measures atmospheric pressure? Finally, atmospheric pressure is measured using an instrument called the barometer. Using an instrument called the barometer. You must mention that to describe abiotic factors. So, to wind up, I'm saying the atmospheric pressure is the pressure exerted on the earth by the atmosphere air's weight, and it varies with altitude. At high altitude areas, this is high altitude areas, the atmospheric pressure is low. And when atmospheric pressure is low at high altitude areas, the rate of transpiration is very high, the rate of sweating is very high, and the concentration of the respiratory gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide, will be very low, meaning the rate of photosynthesis is going to speed at a very slow rate. And at low altitude areas, flatlands, lowlands, the atmospheric pressure is high. And when atmospheric pressure is high, the rate of transpiration is low, the rate of water losing from the body in terms of sweating is very low, there is high concentration of oxygen, hence high respiration, there is high concentration of carbon dioxide, meaning high rate of photosynthesis, because it's the raw material of photosynthesis. How is atmospheric pressure measured? It is measured by using an instrument called a barometer. I think that's the end for today. When we meet next time, we can proceed with the three remaining: wind, pH, salinity. Then we go to, as I gave you last time, the breakdown. We go to the nitrogen cycle. We proceed that way. Nitrogen cycle, then energy flow in an ecosystem, human disease, and adaptations of plants. Thank you so much.